Okay, you can say we're live.
Okay, we're live. Welcome to You've Got More of Mel.
Hi, Colleen. It's great to be on my show.
It's great to have you on your show. Would you like to do the jingle?
I'd love to do the jingle. This is very strange, but fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
A bit nervous, mind you. I'm so nervous I forgot to get the jingle ready. Here we go.
Okay.
Get a chair, grab a seat, or we'll sweep you off your feet. We move, we groove, you got Mel. Ease your legs, rest a while, all you gotta do is smile. We're swell, can't you tell you got Mel? When the show begins, you better hold on real tight, or before you know it, you'll be high as a kite. Take a break, settle down, we're the only show in town. SRO, don't you know you got Mel? Give it up, don't think twice, we're a hurricane on ice. What the hell, give a yell, ring your bell, show and tell. Mademoiselle, give a smell, you got Mel.
You've got Mel.
All right. So, since we just listened to the jingle, I first want to ask you about the jingle. You wrote it,
Yes, I admit that I did.
and is that you singing also?
That's also true.
Yeah. And how long ago was it that you wrote it? Did you write the jingle before you had the talk show, or did it come after?
Okay, so the original talk show was a radio show at a college in Israel
Oh,
called IDC. And I started it about 10 years ago. It was like a radio program interviewing people.
oh,
And the jingle was born back then.
wow.
And a decade ago, You've Got Mel was also a pun that people understood.
Yeah,
Nowadays, the youngsters don't get it.
yeah, I get it.
Yeah. But it's fun. No, you're a youngster, but you're just a very clever youngster. But it's fun. And then, when the pandemic hit and I lost my job at the college I was at, it was like it became like a really important thing. And I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Do you how often do you interview people?
Most weekdays,
Okay.
but because it's a labor of love and I'm not getting paid for it, I wish I were. I would turn this into a job. If you know anybody
Yeah.
wants to pay me, I'll interview anybody for money. Um, so um, so most weekdays, and if I don't feel like a particular weekday, I just don't do it, and I've taken off a week here and there. But
Yeah,
since I started in I don't know, the spring of last year,
yeah.
I've done over 100 interviews,
Wow.
including a remarkable one with you.
And mostly, what types of people are you talking to, or is there a variety?
I talk to several kinds of people. People that I know and love and haven't seen in a long time, and that's fun.
Yeah,
People whose field of interest or profession interests me, and you know that this is my decade of children's book writing.
yeah,
So writers like yourself, illustrators, editors, maybe someday agents.
yeah.
Uh, I'd love to have on the show. And musicians. Next week I have a jazz singer from New York.
Oh,
And not very many academics.
even though you're an academic, are you?
Well, there you go. I'm I'm an anti-academic academic.
Okay.
And but I mean, I'm always looking for interesting people.
Yeah,
But yeah, we've had rap poets on the show, and coaches and all kinds of interesting people.
yeah.
But
Wow.
I guess, Colleen, they have to interest me
Yeah,
for
yeah,
it to be fun.
yeah. So how did your interest in bad breath begin?
By accident, like many things. Together with my buddy of old, Professor Erwin Weiss, we invented a mouthwash by accident. And a pharmaceutical company asked us whether it worked against bad breath.
Oh,
And I went to the library and I saw that there weren't too many academic papers on bad breath. So my buddy Erwin did other things, and I began to smell people.
and so I saw in one of your talks that you said that you made a living of smelling people. So do your friends get nervous around you now? Like,
They did once, but now I'm happily retired
okay.
from that line of work.
So so what were you trying to do when you accidentally discovered this mouthwash?
Make money.
Doing what? Like what was the so you were trying to invent something that was smell related?
Well, yeah, good question. I'm not used to being asked the questions. Give me a minute here. The mouthwash was actually intended to take bacteria and remove them from teeth and from the mouth. That
Okay.
was the original idea. And it was in the 1980s. And most mouthwashes were used to freshen breath. I was a microbiologist, and bad breath is caused by microorganisms. I remember coming home that night and telling my wife, I found my profession. It's a smelly one, but it's going to be a pot of gold for us.
Yeah. Wow. So so you made that discovery of the mouthwash.
The discovery took many years. The
Oh,
mouthwash
okay.
that we originally tried to sell, it was through Tel Aviv University. We never owned the invention. It didn't work.
Okay.
And then I ended up working on improvements.
Oh, okay.
And the improvement also happened by accident during a vociferous, is that a word, vociferous?
Yeah.
Discussion with a chemist. And to show him that he was wrong,
Uh,
I asked Sarit Goldberg Levitan to do a series of experiments. And I was right 99% of the time, but the 1% of the time that he was right, that turned into the improved mouthwash.
wow. Wow. And so something, I can't remember if I was watching it or reading it, but you said that this mouthwash, you can actually see that the back the bacteria when it comes out of your mouth.
Garbage, really. You can't see bacteria.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You can see the schmutz, the bacteria,
Yeah.
debris, guck. That was also by accident.
Wow.
You can buy that mouthwash in the UK, you know.
Yeah, I know. I meant to buy some before we had our talk, and then I placed a grocery order last week and forgot to put it in the cart.
That's fine. I don't make any royalties anymore, so you can either buy it or not. It's okay.
So how does that work? Like, so for example, so you came up with this idea, or this invention of this mouthwash, and then you go to mouthwash companies and try to
Yeah,
sell it to them.
yeah. Through the university, it was
Ah,
an invention that was part of my work in my lab at Tel Aviv University.
yeah, and
And
then
yes, I would get on a plane and go to England or the States or wherever and try to sell the invention. Yeah.
once you sold it, did it change your life very much, or were you still basically doing the same thing?
Oh, it changed my life altogether.
How?
Um, well, we had a few other inventions, but the mouthwash was a big invention. Philip Stemmer licensed it for the UK. And I got a call, Mel, come on over. They're selling it in one store off of Oxford Street. So my wife and I, we take a plane, we go to London, and there's this one store that's selling the mouthwash that we invented. And I take all kinds of pictures, and go back to Israel. And then I get another call. Hey, Mel, come back. There's 6 stores that are selling the mouthwash. So you get on the plane and come back. But then we get a call. Mel, are you sitting? Superdrug is selling the mouthwash. Back on the plane, go to Superdrug, walk into Oxford Street, go into the aisle, and there it is. And I tell the vendor there, I invented this mouthwash.
Wow.
And I got thrown out of one store for that, actually.
Wow.
And oh yeah, and then Boots started selling it, and
Wow.
then it was licensed in the States, and now Colgate is selling a mouthwash that's very similar.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's all very exciting.
Yeah. And so then you got royalties from that for a while. So did that mean that then you didn't have to work as much, so you were able to focus on other things that just interested you?
Yes. So the invention belongs to the university, but they had a really good deal with the professors, which is that if you invent something, they give the inventors a share
Huh.
of the royalties and the license fees. So I did not become a wild, millionaire, but
Yeah.
yeah, we made some money. But
Yeah.
Colleen, even more than the money is the nana banana factor.
I don't know about the Nana Banana Factor.
Sure, you do. Think of all the people, that when you started writing,
Oh, you mean like na 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 na.
na 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 na
Oh,
na
yeah.
na 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 na.
Like I did it. You
Can,
didn't think I
can,
could.
can, yeah, can you imagine how many of my university colleagues laughed at me
Right.
when I started working on bad breath? And this was a mouthwash that you have to shake before
Okay.
use. It
Okay.
had two phases.
Okay. Oh,
So people laughed at me for that also.
right. So and I have a
Simply
question
good.
about mouthwash. When you use mouthwash, if you use it and then you spit it out and then you drink water and swish it around and spit the water out, are you deactivating the mouthwash? Or
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Best time to use mouthwash is right before you go to bed.
Oh, okay. And then don't rinse it out.
Yeah, not only to rinse, but also to gargle.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the bacteria that causes bad breath are mostly at the back of your tongue. That's rinsing.
Yeah.
I can do that again. I see you're enjoying it. And then I'll do anything to make you happy. And then the gargling.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I've written a whole song on gargling. It's very important.
And then okay, let's see. So in another one of your talks that I watched, you said that you had failed dozens of times. What kinds of things have you failed at? I think that people don't give enough credit to failure. I think that failing is really important and that it should be talked about more.
Well, you know, wow. I just made with Emma Emma Crouch a whole movie on failure
Oh, really?
2 years ago in London. I'll post it here under
Oh, cool.
under our Facebook, and it's all about failure
Wow.
because most inventions come from accidents and mishaps and perhaps and you have a book here I think waiting for you. So we went into a pharmacy in Kensington. You know where Kensington is? Maybe it was Knightsbridge.
Okay.
Okay, so it was something that started with a K. It could have been Kingston, and we looked at various things, in the pharmacy. Like the penicillin that was invented by accident, and the mouthwash, which was invented by accident. And the pharmacist took me over and he said, Mel, you got it wrong. Everything we sell, all our prescription drugs, are sold because of their side effects. And I was like, whoa. Like all the drugs that we buy were invented for other reasons. And then all of a sudden they grew hair on your hand,
Oh, right.
right? Like this drug that helps people with their um, sex.
Yes.
It, it wasn't invented for that reason. It was like a
Right.
blood pressure.
Wow. Huh.
And you love to write nonfiction.
Yeah.
I can give you dozens of things like that that were
Wow.
invented by accident.
So,
Um, so mistakes are more important.
yeah.
I'm writing a book on mistakes.
Yeah. Oh,
So
cool.
I've made dozens.
Wow. Okay, let's see. What else? Oh, so why is it that so it seems like smell and taste are very closely related, but why is smell so much more powerful? Like, we associate smell with memories, but we don't so often associate taste with memories. Do you know why?
Well, first of all, smells are very sexy.
Yes. Why?
Oh, you'll have to ask God. I don't know. Um, well, animals smell each other all the time,
Yeah,
and I believe the humans do also.
right.
Um, but when we're kids, I guess sex isn't that big a part of it. Um, so there's only five kinds of taste, right? Sweet,
Oh,
sour, bitter, salty, and umami.
ah,
And there's tens or hundreds of thousands of different smell
right,
combos.
right.
So, the smell palette is much wider.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
Also, when you're eating or chewing something, you have this retrograde smelling going up backwards into your nose. And basically, I think that you smell the aroma of your food at least as much as you taste it.
Yeah, yeah. Huh, wow. Um,
People say that if you block your nose and eat an onion, it will taste like an apple.
oh, wow. My
I,
mom used to eat onions that way. When my mom was little, she would just like grab an onion and eat it like an apple.
but did she block her nose when she was
No,
doing it?
no, she would just eat them. Crazy. Um, okay, so I have another smell question. I don't know if you can answer this. This is just like something I've always been curious
I,
about.
I can't help mention that you've just written a wonderful children's book about the great stink of London.
Yes, oh, that
We talked about just a few weeks ago.
right. Yeah, so I'm very curious about smells.
I thought you were going to talk to me about other things, but okay. It's your show.
No, I have other things that I'm going to ask you about. We still
Okay.
have time.
Yeah.
I'm curious about. Okay, so like with your mouthwash, it gets the bacteria out, like, and you're spitting out the bacteria, right?
Yeah.
So how does something like Febreze or something like that work? Is it also kind of latching on to the smell molecules? Like, do you know anything about that stuff?
Okay, so we're talking about Febreze not as a mouthwash, right?
Right. Yes.
So
Like
I don't
I'm
know anything about it.
you don't?
No, first of all, I don't know whether Febreze works.
Okay.
There are several ways that a compound can interact with a smell. Okay, it can mask it by providing other smells instead. Okay, so
Yeah,
mouthwashes always have this masking thing of mint or cinnamon.
right.
It can bind the smells by physical chemistry,
Yeah.
such as activated charcoal,
Mm.
or it can chemically change the smells.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting.
So these are some of the ways that different.
Yeah. Okay, let me just see if I've asked you all of my smell questions.
Listen, if not, we can always come back and do another interview
Yes.
in
Okay.
2 or 3 years.
um, oh, okay. I want to hear the story of, so you're a musician. I want to hear you tell the story of how you got into jazz.
Oh, geez. I don't know.
I saw it in one of your books.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's true.
Oh,
We all have stories that we tell ourselves.
yeah.
And what's the name of that guy? I keep forgetting his name. He has a complicated name. Um, this Scandinavian philosopher. Ah, it'll come to me after the show. That we always tell our life stories backwards. You know, we think that we know how we did something, why we did something, but really we live our life forwards, but we tell it backwards.
Yeah.
So my backwards story would be that I guess I heard jazz as a kid, but I don't really remember that. But what I do remember is that my piano teacher, Sandra Kupal, had a student named Frank Parkinson. Is that the story you're referring to?
I don't know. Keep telling it, and I'll.
If it doesn't matter if it's true, if it's a good story. And Frank was 16 when he started learning piano. I was 8. And after 3 years, he performed Rhapsody in Blue for 2 pianos with my teacher. Now, I'm 10 years old, and I'm watching this, and I'm playing my little thing of Mozart or Beethoven, and wow, ba 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 boo ba boo ba doo doo ba boo ba ba. Wow, what is this thing? But before I could get into jazz, this thing called the Beatles came along.
Uh,
And I didn't want to play classical music anymore. And I convinced Miss Kupal to teach me Beatles songs. And that's how I somehow managed to stay in this situation until I came to Israel. And then I asked a friend of mine to teach me some jazz. And then um, I bought a dog, or I got a dog, and then I had to give the dog away, and I had 10 kilograms of dog food, and I traded the dog food for guitar lessons. I just remembered that.
wow.
So very slowly, and then at Tel Aviv University, in Jerusalem, there was a jazz thing, and then at Tel Aviv University, I took a course in my master's. So I was studying science, but I took one course in jazz um, with this amazing professor. And then it was
Wow. And you play instruments, but you sing as well, right?
okay. So the singing thing is, I sang as a kid in the synagogue, and then my voice changed, and I didn't sing that much. And then when I was doing my master's, another student told me that I couldn't sing, and I didn't sing for like 20 years.
Wow.
So in my early 40s, I'm very old now, so it's a lot of thinking back. In my early 40s, I started to play saxophone.
Oh,
And so I played saxophone. And then when I was about 48, I started singing also. So it took me like over 20 years to overcome this one insult.
right. Yeah.
You know this thing.
Yeah.
And then I figured that I could sing. Then I started singing. And
Wow.
then I loved singing more than playing saxophone. Somebody once came to my performance. He says, "Why do you have this thing wrapped around your neck? Shouldn't you be playing it sometimes?" And yeah, but it's so much fun to sing.
Wow.
And then I made 2 records. And then about 14 years ago, I went back to piano.
Wow.
I bought this electric piano, and I found a really great teacher, Itai Rosenbaum, who taught me how to play and sing at the same time.
Wow.
Not necessarily well, but
Yeah. It's funny. I never really thought about how you have to learn to play and sing at the same time, that it doesn't necessarily come naturally. But a friend of mine is a guitar player, and he had to teach himself how to play and sing at the same time. And I like that surprised me. I had never really thought about that before.
yeah, I mean, if it's like rock and roll or something, and you're just playing like this, it's not so difficult. But if it's jazz and you're going in and out on the rhythm with the syncopes,
Yeah.
it's something you have to develop.
Yeah.
Like when you watch Diana Krall, um, she can really do it.
Uh,
Or like in the old days, Nat King Cole.
yeah.
Wow. So
Wow.
this is an art, and one of the things that happens is somebody like me who was not able to devote their whole career to music is that you can't do both well at the same time. I
Uh.
can't. Dana Krall can, and Nat King Cole could. Mel cannot. Um, my sing mentors, the prime one is Anita Wardell, but Sheila Jordan, and I used to go to London for a singing class.
Wow.
I'd get on a plane and go to London, and Anita Wardell is this famous jazz singer, and she gave me one lesson in London that changed my life.
Wow.
So it's a work in progress. If I had more time, I would be better.
Yeah.
Um, but at least I can passably sing and play now at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. And so where did your interest in writing for children come in, and how did that come about?
Oh, wow, that took 26 minutes talking about mundane things. Well, when I was 5, I think. You're going to ask me whether I think that my theory is right.
No, actually, I wasn't, but I will if you want me to.
So I'm a grown-up 5-year-old. That's what I
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody who writes for 5-year-olds are grown-up 5-year-olds,
Yeah.
or they are grown-up 5-year-olds, but they don't know that they are.
So
But
that's the age that you like to write for.
well, because I never really graduated kindergarten. I,
Uh,
I, I had 3 issues in kindergarten. They tried to force me to write with my right hand,
oh,
which they thought was good back in the
right.
50s. But I was a very stubborn kid. And they tried to get me to pray to Jesus every day. And I knew I was Jewish.
Right.
And we were forced to pray to Jesus, and we had to close
Wow.
our eyes. And the kindergarten teacher said, if you open your eyes during prayer, something terrible is going to happen. You're going to see something very, very horrible. Well, you don't say that to a poor, fat little Jewish kid, left-handed. So one day in the middle of prayer, I opened my eyes and I saw something very horrible. And that was the kindergarten teacher staring at me. So these are all my wonderful memories
Yeah.
of kindergarten are wanting to burn it.
Yeah.
So I think that what I learned in kindergarten, we're getting very serious in this interview, is that you can't trust authority. You can't
Uh,
trust teachers. You can't believe what people are telling you. You can go along with them. You can study for exams,
yeah.
but you have to always spend your life questioning authority and looking out for the little 5-year-old Melvin with a Y.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was good that you learned it early in some ways to question authority. I mean,
Oh yeah, I got into a lot of trouble,
yeah.
but yeah, but for sure, this is if you ask me what the story of my life is, this is it.
Yeah.
Little 5-year-old Melvin with a Y, trying to protect who he is.
Yeah.
So I wrote my first story when I was in my 20s as a master's student. I was asked by a young kid what bacteria are, and I said, when I get back to my laboratory, I'll write you a book. I got back. It took me a few weeks to write the book,
Wow.
and I never found the kid. And the book was published by Tel Aviv University, but it took about 20 years.
Wow.
And I was embarrassed when the book came out. I didn't want any of the other professors to know
Uh-oh.
I had
Well,
published a children's book.
uh, but you published it under your own name, or did you use a different name?
No, I used my own name. I don't know. Maybe that was a bad idea. Maybe I should have used Dr. Seuss or something.
I think that was already taken.
Gosh. Um, yeah, but I mean, it wasn't like something that everybody knew about.
Yeah.
Um, and then over the course of time, I made all of the mistakes that a children's writer can make.
Like,
Not the good ones, all the bad ones. Um, self-publishing.
well, that's not necessarily a mistake.
You know, Colleen, let's have that discussion. I
Okay.
think that 99 times out of 100, it's a huge mistake.
Why?
Why do I think that?
Yeah.
Because we are all in love with our own shit and our own writing. And when you don't have somebody who's paying to publish your book, you have no gatekeeper.
Right. Yeah.
And I remember, like, my last book, which is really not bad, but it's still, and it was supported by my friend, Evie Weiler, who's helped me publish for years. Um, but the editor said, Mel, this page is a little too long. It's windy. Windy, is that a word?
Well, I know what you mean. So I guess it's a word.
It has too much wind.
Yeah, I get it.
And, like your great stink. And it's a book about smells. It has smells in it even. And, it's about a dragon. Uh, and, um, and I said to him, Arya, I'm paying for this book. You're not going to shorten the text.
Oh,
Look at how funny it is. He says, yeah, it's funny. It's funny and it's amusing, but maybe there's too much text on this page.
right. Yeah.
I said, yeah, but if there's less text, then everybody's just going to look at the picture. And hey, I'm the author, right? I'm the important one, right?
Right.
So these are just some of the mistakes that I made.
Yeah.
And then about 7 years ago, we launched a website called Our Books, OURBOOX,
Mhm.
which we thought would be very good for authors and illustrators. It's become very successful among students and teachers all over the world,
Wow.
over 160,000 books.
Wow.
But it's not a good website for writers of children's books who want to be professional.
Mm.
Again, because there's no gatekeepers. We're trying to figure out how to do that, but you need the gatekeeper. You need somebody saying, listen, I am paying to publish this book.
Yeah.
I know how to make a children's book better than you do.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do is to write some decent thing and then give it to the editor who's going to really fix it
Yeah.
and not listen to you,
Right.
and then find an illustrator that's right for the book
Yeah.
and not ask you about it because you
Yeah.
really don't know. You just think you know. So, by the way, that's another mistake that self-publishing writers do.
Mm.
It's a big profession to choose an illustrator.
Yeah.
Where's your book? Where's your book, Colleen?
Oh, where is it? It's in the other room. Do you want me to go get it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll sing in the meanwhile.
Okay.
I'm not going to sing. This is she's listening. This is wonderful. Being interviewed is wonderful. I mean, it's not as much fun as interviewing, but it's not bad at all. She's going to come back in a minute and show us her incredible book with the wonderful illustrations, which is
Okay.
how I found her.
Ugh.
So just open it up at any double spread.
Okay. Let me see. This is the first one.
Yeah. So that's what a traditionally published book looks like.
That's illustrations by Nancy Carpenter.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And even people like me, Colleen, can look at a book and usually see whether it's traditionally published or done by a writer who doesn't know diddly about publishing. And the other thing is, and I was just speaking to an editor yesterday. You know, people think that it's easy to write a children's book.
Yeah.
And so did I. So about 5 years ago, I went to the SCBWI in New York. I don't know if I told you this.
No, I don't think so.
And I thought, I'm, I have our books. I'm a professor. I know really that, I know the publishing world and everything is, who you know and cousins and I went to this meeting and I discovered that I was completely wrong. Another big mistake.
Yeah.
And writing a children's book, even though there's no bachelor's degree, it's a lifelong learning process.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to say, I'd been teaching
Oh.
children's book writing at a college, and I'm a good teacher, but really I had so much more to learn.
uh,
So I came back from New York. I said, "Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!" So start over at the beginning, take courses. Um, I found one wonderful mentor, Mike Malbrough, author illustrator, very successful, who worked with me for a year, and now we're doing a secret project together.
oh.
And then I started working with Harold Underdown,
Uh,
who is also incredible.
yeah.
And there's so much to learn and to fix and to do. And I also teach beginners, and I love teaching beginners because they force you to rethink everything that you're
Yeah.
thinking and saying.
Yeah.
So I'm, in this limbo of writing, improving, querying, talk about failures. I think I've had maybe, I don't know, between 100 and 200 rejections.
Yeah.
But some of them are very nice rejections.
Yeah. That's good.
I just had a rejection that was full of really sage wisdom
Wow.
on how to improve the manuscript.
Wow. That's really good.
Yeah, and in the other couple of years, I did have one big success, which was writing 3 animations for TED called TED Ed.
Yeah, I watched those. Those are terrific.
Thank you.
Actually, they made me wonder, how come are you just focusing on fiction for young children now, or
You're so smart. See, I love you for what you're doing. Okay? But I spent my whole career in,
right?
if science is nonfiction, sometimes I
Yeah.
wonder. But
Yeah.
let's say that science is the pursuit of the truth,
Yeah.
whatever that is. I spent my whole career looking for the truth. What bacteria really cause bad breath, what mouthwash really works against bad breath, right? But here, it's a playpen.
Yeah.
I get to be 5 years old.
Yeah.
I get to invent animals and stories, and maybe they're good enough, and maybe they're not good enough. But as long as feel like I'm improving,
Yeah.
I'm like the happiest camper. So I do think I've also written some nonfiction. I just finished a manuscript, my first picture book bio on
Oh,
Carole King.
on who?
Carole King.
Oh, cool.
So I'm now, it's on query, on submission,
Yeah.
and that was a lot of fun. So Harold, you know, I said, should I write a bio? He said, oh, absolutely. I said, yeah, but I've never done it before. He said, that's why you should do it.
Yeah.
So I've written a bio, and I've improved my book on bacteria Galore by Sunday at 4. And I'm querying those along with my other ridiculous fiction stories.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Wow. And all right, let me go back to my list.
In the meantime, I can ask myself a question.
Okay.
Am I having fun? Yeah, it's lots of fun.
Well, actually, you know what I was going to say is that you seem to have created a life for yourself that is all about doing things that you enjoy. You've got this talk show where you're talking to interesting people. You're writing these books, that you're really enjoying writing. You've got your music. And I just think that's really admirable. And I have two questions about that actually. One is like, what does your typical day look like? And then the second is like, did you create that life for yourself like on purpose? Like, did you really think to yourself, all right, these are the things that I enjoy and this is how I want to make my life? Or did it just kind of happen?
Okay, it's not all that much fun and games.
Oh, okay.
There have been some psychological issues and medical things, and keeping a great marriage going for many, many years
Yeah.
and raising two kids. Um, and, nothing is all fun. But the 5-year-old Melvin wants to have fun.
Yeah.
He said, you fucked up my kindergarten. You owe me a kindergarten. You owe me a kindergarten where I can be Jewish without going to synagogue,
Yeah.
and I can be as left-handed as I want to. But it's not easy. In other words, Colleen, this is all the time a struggle
Yeah.
against society.
Yeah.
Society always wants to pigeonhole you. And I've suffered my whole life, including now, um, looking at myself the same way society does and being very critical.
Uh,
Like, for example, I'm not working now. I don't really have to work, but after being fired by my last college, that really hurt me.
yeah.
And most of those people, they can go dig a ditch, but I'm still hurt by things like that.
Yeah.
And why do I want to be a traditionally published author? Because I'm not there.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope that, like you, I have many traditionally books published, but I may never get there. So I'll start with one.
Yeah.
If God is going to grant me one traditionally published book, that will be just fine. And you know what? If that doesn't happen, it would not be fair to complain, because you've already noticed that I have had a very good life. Um, but part of having a good life is, like you say, it's waking up in the morning and saying, "Oh, the fun starts." And so what do I do? Go down, make myself coffee, and my wife coffee first, and then usually porridge.
Uh,
We're porridge lovers, oatmeal
yeah.
porridge, peas porridge hot, peas porridge cold, and then as soon as I can, I'm on the computer writing and editing and thinking. And I have some other mundane things that I have to take care of. And there's the house and stuff. But the days pass like this.
Yeah.
Sometimes the grandchildren come over, my kids, um, people.
Do people come over now? Like, what's it like with the COVID situation in
I
Israel?
try to prevent them from coming, but sometimes they come anyway.
Oh,
We are in Israel. The older people are all vaccinated, or
oh, okay.
95%.
Wow.
Like, we're after our second vaccination.
Oh, wow. That's great.
So I'm not going to get mad cow disease this year.
That's good.
And yeah, so I mean, no, look, I've become a hermit
Yeah.
because I love writing and I love Zoom and I love the interviews. In the evening, I'll sit down with my wife and we'll watch some TV.
How did you meet your wife?
The truth,
Yes.
I can make up a great story if you want.
No, the truth.
Okay, so this is the first thing I'm going to say that's actually truthful today. Um, I picked her up at folk dancing club,
Uh-huh.
and asked her to dance with me. And she,
What kind of folk dancing?
international Israeli folk dancing. I was once, I wouldn't say I was agile, but I was agiler.
Right.
And I could get around on the dance floor.
Wow.
So we danced, and I thought she fancied me. But the next week, when I chatted her up, she pretended she didn't remember me at all. Or maybe she didn't.
Right.
So then that made my work even harder. So, when you get a little bit rejected, that's another reason to try even harder,
Yeah.
right? So I tried harder. 9 months later, we were married,
Wow.
and we've been married, with all of the ups and downs of being married.
Yeah. And you have two children and how many grandchildren?
Two grandchildren
Oh,
who aren't big fans of my books. Maybe they are, but they don't want to admit it.
yeah.
Maybe when I'm dead, they'll walk around and say, my grandpa wrote children's books. See this? Saba wrote it.
How old are they, the grandchildren?
They are 7 and 5.
Oh, so fun.
But the other thing, and I know you're going to disagree with me. It didn't come up when I was interviewing you, but we can do this now.
Okay.
Is I really think that children's book writers, maybe all writers, their first audience is themselves.
Yeah, I agree.
Eh! So I get into the chair with my 5-year-old Melvin with a Y, and we write.
Yeah.
And if it amuses me, then there's a chance it might amuse other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I always feel like I'm writing for myself. Like I'm writing to learn something that I want to learn, or I'm writing to, make myself laugh, or because I like the way the words sound, one after the other. I used to, when I first started writing, I wrote a lot of personal essays. And when I wrote something that I really liked, I would call my mom and my sister and I would read it to them or make them read it. And I'm sure they're very grateful that I don't do that anymore. Now that I'm writing more, like I'm fine just, reading it to myself. But
Ah, no, but you should read it. Listen, this is something I've learned over the past years. There's nothing like having somebody read your drafts to you.
yes, well, yes.
I'm going to volunteer for that.
Yeah, that's great. You mean for me?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
but I want you to read some drafts of mine to me.
Okay.
No, this is so helpful.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Sometimes,
pay, I pay people to read drafts to me.
but I wasn't having my mom and my sister read things like so that I could hear how they sounded. I was having them read them so that I could hear them laugh, or so that they would say, "Oh, that's really good." It was different.
But don't they do that? And like, don't they do that anyway?
Oh, well, now I don't send it so much anymore.
No, but I mean, aren't parents supposed to say it's wonderful,
Yes, that's true.
even
Yes,
if it sucks?
yes, definitely.
I once invented a game like Scrabble. I love words,
Uh,
um, and I got my kids to play it, and then I spent a lot of money developing the game because my kids were playing it. And I went to a manufacturer, and he said it's not really a good game. And I went back, and he didn't take it. And I'd spent all this money, like I don't know, $20,000 or something.
oh,
I went back to my kids, and I said, the game manufacturer didn't like. It was called Q42, and I think my daughter said, "Well, Daddy, it's not really such a good game."
oh
And I said, "Well, why did you play it?" He said, "Well, we wanted to make you happy."
no.
I said, "That's so nice, but you just lost $20,000 of your inheritance. Next time, don't make me happy.
Right.
Tell me the truth."
Yeah. So I'm curious about where you got this entrepreneurial spirit. Were your parents entrepreneurs, or did it just
No, no. My dad worked for the government, and my mom was a teacher, and they were not entrepreneurial at all. But I was always entrepreneurial. Um, I would pick raspberries in the forest and sell them, and
Oh,
yeah, always entrepreneurial.
huh.
Um, but I ended up with a career in education, as a tenure track professor. So this enabled me to do other things that were
Yeah.
connected. So it was never like I left my day job, which I don't suggest this to young people.
Yeah.
To leave your day job and not have any income when you're 30 and just have some Wild West startup. 99% of them fail. Just the same thing, when I'm interviewing people like you, Colleen, um, you know, agents get thousands of queries a year, maybe 5,000, and maybe of having success in something that's very creativity driven is very, very sad. Go ahead, laugh at me. But but the basic thing is that yeah, I tell entrepreneurs that they are destined to fail commercially 99.9% of the time. But if you go into it because you're going to learn something and because you're going to give something of value to people,
Yeah.
if that's your benchmark for success,
Yeah.
yeah, you're there. All you have to do is succeed in learning something and being of value to people
Yeah.
and coming out with a product that helps somebody do something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that. So no, look, like all other writers, it's very painful to get a rejection. Um, it's and I won't say that it's this. It's not a happy situation to be a writer looking for an agent and a publisher.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, writing is it's like an itch, and it's always been that way. I've written since I was young. I didn't write children's books, but writing for me is an itch. It's like something itches, so you scratch, and you feel better scratching it. But at the end of the day, writers are sitting and scratching something. That's what I think.
Yeah.
That's how it works for me. So there is a frustration, but the frustration, which is in any kind of creativity, is what leads you to come out with some kind of twist at the end of your story or an idea. It's born of frustration.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everything is wonderful. You don't have to write. You don't have to do anything, and you can spend the day knitting.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't know whether I asked you. You didn't ask me. Is what were my children's books when I was 5?
Oh yeah. It's a good question.
Well, what were yours?
My favorite was the monster at the end of his book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because you're very young, I grew up on a book called Madeline
Oh yeah, I love
by
Madeline.
Ludwig Bemelmans.
Yeah.
And I think that if nothing else, that book turned me into the author I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And we're 4 kids. I'll tell you this story. Um, my dad, just a few months before he died, a few years ago, he was 89 and infirm. Went to Canada to visit him. The kids are sitting around with dad, but dad is barely, he's just sitting in the wheelchair, just dozing, not, doesn't appear to be awake or attentive. And we started talking about Madeline and how much we loved that book. In a house in Paris, all covered in vines. And all of a sudden, my dad gets up a bit in the wheelchair. And he says, there live 12 little girls in 2 straight lines.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
In two
wow.
straight lines, I'm getting tears in my eyes. In 2 straight lines, they broke their bread, and dad chimes in, brushed their teeth, and went to bed.
Oh,
And this is I think, when you look back at what children's books did for us when we were 5 and what they do for
Yeah.
kids. Um, isn't this what you want to do with your life? Is to write a story that'll have meaning for a young child? So I can't think of anything that I'd rather be doing today. So I will take the failures and the rejections as long as my writing is getting better.
Yeah.
Because basically, if you don't write a good story, nobody's going to accept you. If you write a good story, you might get lucky. You might meet an agent. You might do this. You might, right? But if your story sucks, nobody's going to help you.
Oh, but yes, that's true. That is true. But
And part of, yeah, go ahead.
I think there are a lot of good stories that don't make it for one reason or another.
Yeah, no. Having a good story is like having a good mouthwash.
Right.
I had to go to 60 different companies before I sold the
Yeah.
mouthwash. Just because you have something good doesn't mean anything.
Right.
It's just like the entry card
Right.
to get in.
Yeah.
Oh, then there's a whole bunch of other things. Is the book commercial? Um, so many other factors.
Yeah.
Is there an agent somewhere in the stratosphere who's looking for a book on the subject and you
Right.
just happen to send them,
Yeah.
and they're not brain dead when they read your query,
Right.
and they didn't notice the typos you had, um, and they don't mind that you're a bald old Jewish guy. There's all kinds of criteria, but basically you have to have a good story.
Yeah.
So that's my to use a Christian term, that's my holy grail right now, is
Yeah.
to be a really good writer. If I'm a really good writer, then things will happen,
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
or not,
Right.
you know. But I'll always have the other stuff and the, you know. So
Yeah.
everything is really good.
Yeah. And I feel like one of the things that makes writing for children so wonderful is the people in the community. So even if, even on like when you're not achieving the things that you want to achieve, you're still surrounded by lovely people. And I feel like that helps.
You know, since I started interviewing authors, they are they're not only nice and lovely and wonderful, they're too wonderful.
What?
You didn't ask me why I don't have a critique group.
Oh, I was going to ask you if you did have a critique group. I didn't know.
No, I have one, but I'm not participating in it.
Oh, okay.
Because the people are too nice in the critique groups.
Oh, well, you just need a better critique group.
Well, help me with that, because I'm in a critique group now where everybody writes so beautifully and it's wonderful. What a great
Yeah.
story. And I would rather have Harold, I'd rather have an editor
Yeah.
that you pay. And
Yeah.
he says, Mel, I don't know.
Right.
All they have to say is, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then you realize, because otherwise, you learn as a critique, first of all, say how wonderful it is, even if it sucks,
Yeah.
how wonderful it is, and pay compliments, and then say, well, I wonder if the main character maybe, but nobody's going to come to you and say, Mel, that's a fucking terrible story. Trash it and write something else. That doesn't happen in critique groups, but Colleen, it should.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way. So I need to find a critique group of mean people.
Well, I see what you're saying. I mean, I've heard people talk about like a critique sandwich, how you do like, you say two positive things. You should always be able to find something positive. And then then three things that could be improved. And then you end it with a positive thing so that you leave the person, not feeling terrible about themselves.
Colleen, screw that. I, save me that.
Really?
Tell me what's wrong.
Yeah.
Because if you don't tell me what's wrong when something is really good. You know, when Harold tells me that a story is really good,
You know it.
yes, I jump up and down in my chair, and after I run down and tell him, Harold, look at my story.
Yeah.
You know, but if you're in a critique group and he says, "Oh, that's a lovely tale about a chicken who wants to be roasted on Thanksgiving instead of a turkey," and then they say, "But I wonder if the chicken should weigh 10 pounds instead of 9 pounds," and then they finish with something nice at the bottom of the sandwich.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, I
if,
still think that I think it's important to know what's working though.
okay. So here's the thing. I would rather know what's not working, because what's working, the writer knows what's working.
Mhm.
The writer doesn't know what's not working. And
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but everything I write is wonderful at the beginning.
Yeah.
And as writers, we have to know what sucks.
Yeah.
You know, when you write a scientific paper and you send it to be published, the scientist is not going to write, "Oh, this is a lovely story on two bacteria that fall in love. And it's so nice that you did it in the laboratory. But I'm wondering whether maybe, the data are all
Yeah.
fudged." But having said that, your discussion is so lovely. And you use the word incidentally twice, which I found rather enchanting. So I know that you cannot, I've been an editor of scientific journals. So, at some stage, you have to be able to take
Yeah.
the criticism that is genuine criticism. Yeah. And yeah, of course, say something nice about it.
Yeah.
I'm glad, you know how to spell. But if it's not good, tell me it's not
Yeah.
good in your opinion.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how am I going to improve? Anyway,
Yeah. No,
that's
no,
what I.
yeah, you're right.
The other thing, so I've interviewed now 20 writers, illustrators, editors, authors, and I've been interviewed now by one. And next week we're going to have a coffee meetup,
Yes.
and maybe then I will have a group of people that I really like, because I've been interviewing people that seem to me to be wonderful,
Mhm.
and maybe that's the beginning of something.
Yeah. You might be right.
I have a feeling about this.
All right, we've been talking for an hour, over an hour.
Oy vey.
We should wrap it up.
That's what happens when
Oh, it's time for you to do your song.
Yeah, well, one second. Before I do my song, here's the thing. One of the reasons I do the program is because I'm a university professor and I love talking. People like me are not good listeners. We're just not. Since a very young age, I prefer to talk, and most people prefer to talk. And all these years, I was interviewed. But you've got mail is my lesson in reaching out to people and listening to them.
Mm,
And I have a sign here on the wall that says, "Listen
uh,
more." And this is when I'm interviewing this, I love it. And I'm learning to be a listener. And it's so wonderful. You can learn anything. I'm learning to listen. So you've got Mel for me is an exercise in meeting wonderful people and finding out what their wonderfulness is.
yeah.
But if you let me talk like you did today, I won't stop. So you want a song?
Yep.
What song would you like?
No, you have to choose. But do you want to do a Beatles song, or do you prefer something else?
What would you like?
Uh,
I can do a Beatles song.
yeah, do a Beatles song.
A Beatles song.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will do my favorite Beatles song.
Okay.
I happen to have brought my piano.
Convenience.
Here, making each day of the year, changing my life with a wave of her hand. Nobody can deny that there's something there. There, running my hands through her hair, chanting that love never dies, watching her eyes and hoping I'm always there. I need her everywhere, and if she's beside me, I know I need never care. For to love her is to need her everywhere, knowing that love is to share. Each of us thinking that love never dies, watching her eyes and hoping I'm always there, to be there and everywhere, here, there, and everywhere, do-do-do, yeah.
So that's my favorite Beatles song. Now everybody knows.
That was lovely.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being my guest on You've Got Mel. It was lovely.
Thank you. Thank you for having the idea to host me on my own show. Listen, you're incredible. I can't wait to see you next week. I can't wait to actually meet you. And congratulations on all your successes with your children's writing. And shall we stay in touch?
Yes. I'll see you next week.
Colleen,
What?
the Scandinavian philosopher is Kierkegaard.
Oh, okay. Here would come back to you.
Okay, dear. Thanks so much
Okay.
for having me on my own show.